Using tarot cards for divination or to divine the past, present, and future, to uncover things about the self in relation to your path, your next move, what you should do in order to move forward, to ascend. There are a lot of things that we can do with tarot cards, and it is one of the earliest magical type skills that we need to learn. It is not an advanced skill, although there are a lot of different neat things that you can do with tarot cards when you've already learned how to read tarot to the point that you're just killer at it, that you get it right every single time, and you're more advanced, you're bored. There are a lot of extra things that you can do to turn it into a more advanced art form, but overall, no, it is one of the more beginner-based things that we should be learning about early on. There are a lot of really interesting things you can do with tarot, including using them for like reverse readings, ways that you can turn them into spells, turn them into forms of magic instead of using them to uncover information. Whatever you see or interpret when you look at a particular card, you can use that to your advantage and actually turn that into a spell and kind of pull that magical essence right out of that card and make it work for you. And that's some other information that I have available that I will share with you all. Most important things when you are looking into either buying your first set of tarot cards or subsequent sets for later on, it's like the number one rule is that it should be something with artwork and imagery that just resonates with you. Something that moves right through you. A deck with pictures in the types of color schemes and hues that you like, the types of imagery that you like that actually to your personal interests. Like if you're interested in horror, gothic, vampire, or dragon based stuff, that you should try to get yourself a deck that has dragon based artwork or gothic artwork, macabre with blood and gore, anything that's going to move through you, because obviously if you love the artwork on it, you're going to be more interested in looking at those cards, and the more you look at them, the more you're going to connect with them. So that's the reason for doing that. Now I know it's not always easy to afford tarot sets, because a lot of the ones that have the really interesting, downright ass-kicking artwork on there can run upwards of $40, $50, $60 per set, especially if you're newer and you have to buy the little book that comes with them that tells you the illustrator and, you know, the author's interpretations of that deck just to kind of get you started. There are alternative solutions. I'm sure you may have heard of something called cartomancy, where people go in and take poker cards when they don't have anything else on hand, or sometimes they just prefer because it's a little more difficult. So you're working with nothing but the basic suits on there, like clubs, hearts, diamonds, spades, things of that nature, and then you've got the black and the red colors. And as boring as they seem, those can produce some pretty accurate results. Another idea that I got in mind, it just sort of smacked me in the face the other day. I was looking through a bunch of Magic the Gathering cards that someone gave me. They wanted me to get rid of them for them, and I like the artwork, and I know this has been something that's been around for at least a couple of decades now. So I started looking through the cards, and I was like, there's some pretty interesting, like, gothic artwork on these. And I noticed with the titles and the artwork, I got an immediate vibe. You could totally use these for tarot-based divination. If you're looking then that's got that really creepy and dark artwork, but you can't afford to run out and pay for one of those more expensive $50, $60 sets. The Magic the Gathering cards, it's one of those things where it's probably like $7 to $14 a pack, depending on what size pack you're wanting to get, and you can go through and piece these together and make some really interesting combinations. Not to mention, if you're a teenager and you have religious parents or possibly even atheistic parents that just don't support witchcraft or anything along those lines, and you're looking for a way to kind of slip it past them so you can start learning how to divinate and doing something similar to tarot reading, when you know they are not going to buy you anything like that on purpose. And if you find a way to use your allowance to sneak off and get something at a bookstore, you know if they find it, they're going to throw it away. And you're just going to be stuck rebuying that stuff every time you turn around. This would be a good alternative solution, because even a lot of religious parents wouldn't be opposed to buying their kid packages of collector cards. Not every Christian parent is going to be so overzealous that they're going to be like, oh, that's got dark art on it, you can't have it. No, I know a lot of people that grew up with parents like that, but they would buy their kids Magic the Gathering cards all day long. And you know, these cards, they got some pretty dark gothic stuff on there. So my idea was to take certain cards and pair them up, essentially using Magic the Gathering cards to divinate with. And if you have any other sort of trading card game or like collector's cards in mind that have similar art, similar themes, you could try those too. You just got to toy around with it. And the way that these would work, these probably wouldn't be very good for overly complicated spreads. I would say more so drawing 3 or 4 cards out of the deck, possibly geared more toward the present and the future, and maybe a little bit of the past. I wouldn't go into like Celtic cross spreads, birthday spreads, or anything overly complicated. I would definitely limit yourself to 3 or 4 cards max the first several times until you get a hang of it. But I went through and I pulled out like some different pairs just to show you some examples how you could end up using these cards. Like I've got Stronghold Assassin and Flamekin Zealot, and it's just looking at the pictures on these cards to kind of get an idea of what it reminds you of, which is no different than what you do when you're looking at an actual tarot deck. You look at the artwork, try to interpret what you think it means based on the other cards that you got laid out side by side, how they relate to one another. Like Horrifying Revelation, and you can see it looks like someone's had a shocking discovery, which would make absolute sense because it happens a lot. And the impression I got off that one would be like you've just been smacked in the face with truth, or you've had a realization after a period of denial or a period of blindness in which your path doesn't seem to be moving forward. Like this card right here, Burden of Greed. That could be an indicator of something karmic coming back to bite you in the rear. The threefold law, if you believe in that sort of stuff. And then if you don't, it could just mean that, you know, something you've done is about to come back to you. Someone else is about to come back and get revenge on you. I see a lot of really good potential in these cards. And again, I'm just trying to show you because I know a lot of people have these cards on hand. There's a lot of nerds in the occult community, so if you have any of these cards on hand, maybe this will give you an idea to try to put together your own little set of, well, tarot cards with these and go in and play around. Giant Scorpion, and, you know, go for the throat. Put on those. Reminds me of Packing a Deadly Punch. Time to strike back. Like, the time to move or the time to strike is now in relation to a goal or an enemy. Don't hold back, the warrior self. So you can kind of see what direction I'm going in with these. Then I got these over here. Crypt Dwelling, Shred Memory, and Psychic Miasma. Just look at the imagery on it. It looks like something in relation with the mind, and the memory is just absolutely falling apart. And then crypt dwelling, like something's dead, something's dying. And for that one, I had dead time in relation to magic, lack of focus or creativity, roadblocks or not moving forward in relation to your magical path, lack of psychic or informational flow, ascension blocks, possible communication or hindered astral senses, which again, it makes sense because of the psychic miasma. It just kind of reminds you of something about the psychic senses being attacked. And then if you actually read the little messages on the cards down here, that's kind of what it's in relation to. Shred memory, like the memory is just being absolutely ruined and it's not moving forward. So you kind of get the idea. I went through and paired together several 2 and 3 card sets just to kind of give myself an idea. Like Suntail Hawk and Cost Courier, it reminded me of receiving messages because of a courier and the hawk. And a lot of the times birds are known to be messengers of the divine. One last one over here. Spirit of the Suns and Wake the Reflection. It reminded me of receipt of divine messages. Reflection on the higher self, something about the self that is about to come to life. Spirit of the Suns, that you are about to receive some sort of illumination, going through a period of enlightenment. So you can see how that makes absolute sense, as nerdy as it may sound. And getting these cards by themselves, you can come up with your own interpretations, but like I did, to experiment, you can go through and just pick 2 or 3 cards that have, you know, very similar titles or artwork that just seems like it would go hand in hand. And if you end up pulling 2, 3, or even 4 different cards out of the deck that all seem related and connected, well, it's no different than with regular tarot cards. The more cards you receive that seem very similar in the messages they have, the more it's trying to reinforce. This is going to happen. It is happening and you're not seeing it. This is something important you need to focus on. So that's just an idea that I thought I would mention.